And I will remind the witness, Ms. Gwilliam, you're still under oath for your testimony.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. Ms. Gwilliam, do you have a recollection of how many times you've been interviewed as part of this investigation?
I don't know the exact amount. I've never counted.
Okay. Is it more than 5?
Probably just sometimes it's just phone calls or a text asking questions.
And what
I don't know if that counts. Sorry, I just didn't know if that counts.
what I would like to count are actually in-person interviews is what I would like to refer to.
A handful. I don't know like the exact amount, but with trial prep,
Excluding the trial prep today, because I assume you spoke with the prosecuting attorneys
Yes.
before you testified today. And isn't it true? You probably spoke to them over the lunch hour as well shortly.
no, I tried to keep myself apart from everybody at lunch because I'm still under oath. So
Okay. All right. And the locations of those interviews varied. Is that true?
yes,
On one occasion, on June 4th of 2020, one of those interviews was in your home. Is that right?
correct.
And present at one of those interviews was, do you recall which officer of agency?
I honestly, since we've dealt with so many of them, I don't recollect which agency came, if it was Fremont or Madison, or I'm not exactly sure who belongs to which department at this point. I'll be frank.
Okay. And then generally during those interviews, was your husband present?
Yes,
And generally during those interviews, other than your husband, would it involve maybe 1 or 2 or 3 other people interviewing you?
occasionally, yes.
Okay. And on June 4th of 2020, you had an occasion to be interviewed by a number of officers, and you don't specifically recall which ones, though. Is that right?
I want to say, I'm going to be honest, I don't remember who it was that I talked to.
You remember the name Officer Hermosillo?
Yes,
Officer Ball?
yes.
Does that refresh your
Yeah,
recollection?
that sounds about right.
Does that refresh your recollection of who
Yes.
interviewed you?
And I think maybe Bruce Mattingly was there.
And then is it possible as well that Mr. Wood was there for that interview
Yes,
as
he
well?
was in my front room.
Okay, so when he was
Hold
in,
on a sec. Ms. Gwilliam,
Yes,
please wait till the question's done before you answer.
I can do that.
Excuse me. We need to talk only one at a time for the record, so please try to do that. Thank you.
Okay.
and once again, Judge, I did it as well, so I think that was baiting her on in some way. So, and during that interview with Officer Hermosillo and Prosecutor Wood was there as well, correct?
Correct.
And at the time, there were just a handful of you there, correct? 3 or 4 of you?
I believe so.
Okay. And your husband was there as well, correct?
Correct.
Did he actually sit there with you during the interview?
Yes, he did.
So he would have been able to identify everybody who was there during that interview. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustain.
Were the people who were there for that interview, as far as from your perception, all in plain sight of the other folks who were there for the interview?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes. All right, Mr. Pryor, you can continue. If you'd like the court reporter to read back that previous question, you may.
No, Judge, I'm going to move forward at this point.
Okay.
And again, Ms. Gwilliam, there was another meeting in December of, I believe, 2020 as well. Do you recall that
Yes,
with law enforcement?
yes,
Was that at a different location?
yes.
And again, do you recall who was present for that meeting?
I stood outside of the room, and I was not present inside of what took place.
Okay. Now, you spoke briefly about the animals that were in the pet cemetery.
The ones that I knew of, yes.
Okay, and then that's, you're anticipating my question. You don't know all of the animals that were put in the pet cemetery, correct?
No, I do not.
Okay. And you testified earlier that it was Tammy who had one of these pet cemeteries at her home in Springville,
Yes,
and that was her habit to do that when animals would pass.
it's our family's habit.
Oh, it's your family's habit?
Yeah, we do. Our whole time growing up, we would have a cemetery for our
Okay.
pets.
And she continued that tradition.
Correct.
And she would have been the one who would have tendered that pet cemetery, cared for it, prepared it, all of such, correct?
On some occasions, I do remember one occasion in Springville where Chad helped us bury some pets too.
Okay. But primarily in Springville, it was Tammy's responsibility for care for the pet cemetery. Would that be fair?
I can't testify that it was just her. I don't know if her children helped either.
Okay. And you don't know who tendered or cared for the pet cemetery in their home in Rexburg area, correct?
No, I just know that they all lived there and they all had different pets that got buried there. So
Okay.
you can make your own assumptions.
I don't want to make any assumptions. I just wanted to hear what you had to say
Yeah,
about that.
that's, I would be making assumptions as well.
Okay.
So,
And you'd be making assumptions about what kind of animals and when the animals would be put in there. Is that correct?
no, on the three that I talked about, Tammy told me about them.
Okay. I'm talking about other animals or other occasions.
Yeah, I
correct?
don't know about
Okay.
them.
Now, you mentioned that Tammy was quite proficient with computers.
Correct.
Were you aware that she would have been the primary manager of the publishing company?
Yeah, for the most part, from what I knew, she was
She did most of the,
the book work.
Chad wrote the books and Tammy did everything else.
From my understanding, yes.
The name Steve Schultz came up.
Correct.
And that's someone that is that a family friend or is that someone you just know?
As a family friend.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that Tammy would go to the doctor if there was a medical issue that she needed to address. Would that be
Correct.
fair?
Yeah.
And that was something that she would do without hesitation?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. Now, you know her children, correct?
Yes, I do.
And can you give me their names?
Yeah, we have Garth, Emma, Seth, Leah, and Mark.
Okay. And Tammy did a wonderful job raising 5 wonderful children.
She was a wonderful mother.
And she did it. And if I could just finish my question.
Sorry.
That's okay. And did a wonderful job of raising these children. Is that correct?
Yes, she was a wonderful mother.
And these children are all deeply involved in their faith within the LDS Church, really as a result of a lot of Tammy's instruction. Would you agree with that?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation as well as relevance.
Sustained.
Judge, it's sustained on speculation or relevance?
Relevance.
Okay. Are you aware if the children are still practicing members of the LDS faith?
I believe they are, but I have not had contact with some of them.
And specifically, you did mention that you talked about Tammy and you discussed the idea that you folks kept track of what medications each of you were on, from what I understood. What medications was Tammy on?
She took something for her wrist and she was taking something for her depression.
That would be the only medication to your knowledge.
That's the only two that she told me about.
Okay. Other than the homeopathic stuff that she would engage in occasionally, correct?
Yep, correct.
And that included essential oils?
I don't know. I never saw her use them, so I don't know what
Okay.
she used.
Okay. And you mentioned that Tammy went to bed early. What does that mean?
It was her habit from a young age that she was always the first one that would go to sleep.
You don't know specifically what time, just very early?
It would depend on the day, but 9 o'clock was always late, considered late for her.
Okay. And you did mention that she drove out to see you on, I think you mentioned like 3 occasions, or was it more than that?
But which year?
The 2019 July.
Yes,
And
4 if you count April.
and the vehicle that she would drive is what?
I don't recall what car she drove.
Okay. Did she stay at your house?
Yes, she did for a couple of the occasions.
Okay, and Judge, could I have something, the use of the Elmo? And I would like the bailiff to bring me 23A, 23F, it looks like.
Okay, we'll have those exhibits brought over, 23A and F.
Court's permission to publish those on Elmo.
Yeah, they're admitted and they may be published.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a laser of some kind up there that you can see.
Do we have a pointer?
Is this,
Oh, okay, thank you.
You know how to use that? Because I don't.
it's on. It's working.
Okay, so I'm looking at a tree. Do you see that tree right in the forefront?
This one right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it looks like, and I don't want to describe it, but there's a dark area that's to the left of it. Do you see that?
This is the fire pit. Right here.
Okay, but before that, where the tree is, there's like a dark, it looks like, is that a shadow or is that part of the pet cemetery?
No, that's a shadow.
And that's a shadow coming, from what you can tell, that's a shadow that's coming off of the tree?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have the pointer, point to where the pet cemetery is.
Right here in the center. You can see the little dog statue right there.
Okay, and then which side of it is on of those posts?
It's on the left side.
So put the red mark where that would be.
I just had it on there. That's
Okay.
it right there.
Okay, thank you. And then in regards to the house, where would the house be, on which side?
The house is off to the left. So there's the red barn and then the home would have been over here.
Okay. And then as part of the house, there's the traditional part of the house, and then there's a garage. And there is a structure attached to the garage.
Yeah, they called it the cozy cone.
And that wasn't really the original part of the house, correct?
The previous owner had added it onto the house, and there's stairs that go up to a room where they had musical instruments and Mark would sleep there.
Occasionally?
Yeah.
And that's to access, what did you call it? The cozy what?
They called it the cozy cone.
And was that because of the nature?
It was because of the pitched roof.
Okay. Okay, and I'm going to try to slow down so we don't interrupt each other.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. And that cozy cone, you asked, and you've been inside the house, is that right?
Yes, I have.
And that cozy cone is accessed by going out into the garage and then to the back.
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying. I'd move to strike.
Sustain.
You know how you would access?
Hold on, Mr. Pryor. Sustain, that question is stricken, jurors to disregard. Thank you.
And do you know how you would access the cozy cone from the garage?
There's a hallway and a staircase that goes up. It's just through a doorway from the house. So it was like a hallway.
Okay, and that's what your recollection is?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And your recollection is it's a hallway that goes through the house, not through the garage?
It's part of the garage there's a door from the kitchen and you would just take a step down through the garage and it was a hallway. It was connected.
Okay. And this hallway that you're speaking of is in the garage?
No, the hallway's not part of the garage. It was part of the annex for this attached structure.
Okay. And is this attached structure attached to the back of the garage?
Yes, and to the home. They're all connected
Okay.
to
all
one
right.
another.
And Judge 23,
All right, 23F's being published now.
Now, again, if you could take the red pointer and show me exactly again where the pet cemetery is,
Well, you can see the dog statue right here.
right?
And they'd put the fence post. Tammy had originally been trying to grow raspberries here. And they weren't taking the way she had wanted to. And since the soil was tilled, it was easier to bury pets.
Okay. And that was, you anticipated my question, and that was originally a,
Raspberry patch.
I'll try, Judge. I'll try. Okay. And at that point, then, since the raspberries weren't taking, now that's that area that we're talking about. And Judge, if we could switch back to the other exhibit, if I may.
23A.
Yes, Judge.
Yeah, you can publish 23A again.
Thank you, Your Honor. And again, I see another tree in the very far back. Is that right?
Yes,
And there's an irrigation pond back there.
correct.
And by this picture, it looks like it's a significant distance. Is it a significant distance?
Not that significant. That
Okay.
they're all on the same property.
Okay. And are these trees and this pet cemetery are in the field in the back of the Daybell property? Would that be fair?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. And I'm seeing on the very far back beyond the tree, there's some houses back there. Is that right? You see those?
yeah.
Is that a road back there that eventually goes in front of the Daybell property?
There is a cross street that goes through most of that county.
Okay. And that's where that road is, correct?
Yes, it leads by the front of their home.
Okay. Okay. And Judge, if I could just have a moment, please.
Yes.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
All right. Ms. Blake, does the state wish to redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. You were asked some questions about Chad and Tammy's kids, and I think you responded you really haven't been in contact with them.
Correct.
Why is that?
Because of the investigation that precipitated with the missing children, we got blamed for being a part of it. Chad,
There's no foundation to establish when we say we got blamed.
Sustained.
Prior to Tammy's passing, did you have contact with Chad and Tammy's kids?
yes, I did.
Is it fair to say at least some of them were close with your family?
Yes, we raised our children together and we did a lot together.
Subsequent to the investigation, did that contact change?
Yes,
Have you attempted to have contact with the children?
we have.
You were asked about the pet cemetery and whether or not you knew every pet buried in it. Do you recall that question?
Yes, I do.
And you indicated you knew of some pets that were buried around there?
Yes.
At some point, did you learn of something or someone else that was buried in Chad's backyard?
Yes.
And what was that?
2 children.
I have no further questions.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Blake. That'll conclude the testimony then of Ms. Gwilliam. Feel free to take a moment if you need before you go ahead and step down. She's not subject to the exclusionary order, so I don't know if she's under subpoena or either side wishes to address whether or not a subpoena is in effect.
She is not under subpoena from the state, Your Honor. If she had been, we would release her at this point, but she is not subject to the exclusionary rule.
And Judge, she's not under subpoena from the defense, so there won't be any recall.
All right, thank you.